Let's talk to Stephen James. He's a qualified teacher and he's co-founder of the Invicta National Academy. They were set up during the pandemic to reconnect children with missed learning. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. More teachers' strikes, different parts of the country over 3 days seeing those strikes. Northern regions today and the Midlands today. I think tomorrow it's going to be the southwest and southeast of England. There is a real concern about how the impact of these strikes on young people. But then the teachers going on strike say their concern is actually that the long-term impact of teachers not being paid well, not being able to recruit, not being able to retain teachers. Do you think those concerns are well placed?
Look, I really do think they have, they do have valid concerns about working conditions, and I've never denied that. I think just what I think the main sort of message I'd like to get across is that the unions are not speaking for the whole teaching profession.
Yeah.
And, within that, you see all the kind of banners and the strikes, and you'll see Kevin Courtney giving his statements to the press saying it's all about education, it's all about the children. And to me, it's just so disingenuous that he's giving this message out. Because, look, if it was about the children, if it was about education, then they wouldn't be striking whatsoever. They'd be getting around the table with the countless offers that the Secretary of State has been given to get around the table, but they won't even meet the preconditions to get around the table. So I just find the whole thing very disingenuous, and it's just damaging children, which is
I don't think there should be preconditions. Anyone talking about something as important as this. I mean, it does seem to me still utterly bizarre that hilariously, Michael Gove, the Housing and Levelling Up Secretary, is talking about something he had discussed when he was Education Secretary previously under the Cameron government, about how parents should lose their benefits if they are repeatedly allow their children to truant. We've got, people's parents still being fined if they take their kids away on holiday for a day, but it's okay if they miss a day's teaching because of a strike. Or if they just close school for months on end and there are no teaching, no lessons at all. Parents, I think, an awful lot of them, they may like their child's teacher, they might like their head teacher, but I think the impression I get is they're pretty fed up with this.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Parents are getting fed up. I mean, tomorrow, I don't know whether my oldest daughter's going to be in school or not. And one of the really frustrating things about tomorrow and the strikes, especially down here for me in the southeast, is that it's World Book Day, and it's one of the funnest days in school that you can possibly have as a child. We've spent a good couple of weeks trying to design and craft costumes for our children, so that we can show off to the other parents in school on the way to school. Yeah. And so our children can really engage with reading and enjoying reading and becoming, really passionate readers. And that might not be happening tomorrow, which is such a huge disappointment as well. And it associates then reading with disappointment. And yeah. Then you see that spreading across the southwest. You've got children causing trouble and mischief and having protests and going on strike. Now, where's this kind of feeling of animosity towards school and education coming from? Is it coming from parents, or is it coming from the teachers themselves, who are setting an example as role models? Yeah. I mean, this is how you deal with something when it doesn't go your way.
Well, indeed. And I've seen some of the teachers protesting yesterday, and one of the placards that one of the teachers was holding up was WTF, which stands for what they... But actually, of course, they were saying it's, where's the funding, was the words underneath. But I just thought, that's just not appropriate from a teacher. I just don't expect that from a teacher. If you're a professional, you want to be treated as a professional and respected member of the community, you can't hold up a placard like that outside a school. It's inappropriate, don't you think?
No, absolutely. Language like that, and we can never condone it in schools at all. One thing I will say, though, about teachers is that the level and the quality of placards and banners that have gone up in terms of artwork and creative puns has been pretty good.
Well done.
From people. So we can give them credit on that front. But I just think the overall, the example that they're setting to our young people is just not on. And this has been led by the NEU, who do not represent all teachers.
And they certainly don't care about children. We know that. I mean, they didn't think that teachers should provide even Zoom lessons. They were concerned about the teachers' privacy during the first lockdown. I mean, genuinely, I think they've got so much to answer for. But again, I blame the government for listening to them a lot of the time. Just finally, I want to ask you, there's been a lot of talk about what's been going on in schools, about things like this case of the Quran being apparently mildly damaged, I mean, literally scoffed by some kids who brought it in as a dare. Police getting involved, kids being suspended. We have all this talk about trans ideology, climate propaganda. Is there a big issue in schools, as far as you're aware and your experience, of teachers just saying they just feel like they're in the middle of these culture wars and they can't just do the job of imparting knowledge about, the 3 Rs. They just want to do good teachers just want to do their job of making sure children are well educated and going on and have a good, fulfilling life and get a good job. And actually they're being used as part of the culture wars. Are you getting that impression?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say the influence of left-wing ideology in education is quite insidious, and it starts at university with the lecturers who. I went to university as a mature student, and as you can imagine, had already kind of established my views of the world. Lecturers didn't like that. They didn't like somebody who had actually, been about and kind of seen the world for what it really is, arguing back at their kind of blue sky thinking, ideal world situation, which, like you said, is filtering its way into schools where we're banning books, we're sacking teachers for using the wrong pronouns and these kinds of things. And I just kind of think, well, why aren't the unions sticking up for teachers in this aspect? Should they be spending their energy doing that? Because that's what unions are for, to protect their workers too. And I've just seen countless teachers thrown under the bus by unions because they don't fit that kind of left-wing view of the world.
Yeah, and teaching unions didn't even speak up when the Batley Grammar School teacher had to go into hiding with death threats.
That tells you all you need to know about them.
Teaching a religious studies class, indeed. Stephen James, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much, co-founder of the Invicta National Academy.